All right, you guys, day 3, welcome back. We are in it now. You guys are in the meat of this work. Pat yourselves on the back if you've made it this far. If you feel like you are on a roller coaster right now and you're starting to learn a lot, that's perfectly normal for this point in the game. Stay on the ride. We're going to get you through it. Okay. Keep working on noticing the reasons that you're eating and practicing the mindfulness around food. Now, the layer that I want to add on is more about what we're eating. And this is a little bit more of a tangible day. So I have more stuff to show you guys. But the reason that we want to talk about balanced plates is because our body functions best with a variety of nutrients. And if I'm not giving it that can really kick cravings in certain areas into high gear. So if you are undernourished, especially in one of the macronutrients, like a carbohydrate, a protein, or a fat, it's going to be, it might be very noticeable in your cravings. Like that might be what your body's telling you it wants. And I would be curious to see what that looks like for some of you. So what I am going to do is share my screen, and we're just going to dive in today. Technology dinosaur. Sure. Okay. Welcome to my messy computer. What I want you guys to see is this, but bigger. How do we make it bigger? Wait, hold on. Hold on. I told you I'm like the worst with technology. I hate it. Now I want to share my screen with you guys and show you this full screen. All right. So, flexi macros. This is how we're going to talk about building a balanced plate. So, what are they? What are macronutrients? They are the nutrients that we need in larger quantities. They give our body energy, allow us to function, and ultimately determine our body composition, which is how much skeletal muscle mass I have versus fat mass versus water weight and bone weight, right? It's the composition of our body, like what is it made up of? And just kind of general rule of thumb to live longer and be independent longer, you want more skeletal muscle mass and less body fat mass. That being said, some body fat mass is necessary for functioning, right? Specifically, I mean, in everybody, but especially in females too. So macronutrients are proteins, carbohydrates, and fat. Okay. Proteins, they're essentially the building blocks for our body. It is the stuff that allows us to build and repair muscle. Okay. And muscle is what keeps us moving longer. Muscle is also what makes our metabolism run better without us having to exercise to make our metabolism run better. Right. So essentially, your body's going to burn fuel when it is working. The thing about having muscle mass is that your body is working even when you're not exercising to make it work, because muscle needs to be fed something, right? So muscle is going to automatically up that metabolism. As I've put on more muscle mass, I've noticed that I don't feel like I flex as much if I eat different meals a little bit. I feel like I've noticed that, oh, my metabolism does seem to be moving well because I feel like my body can actually handle more variety. And by that, I mean, like, I can go have pizza on Friday night with friends and not feel huge for 2 days afterwards. Now, if I do that all the time, I'm not going to help my body composition. But I'm just trying to give an example of how muscle can kind of make you feel a little bit different there. Anyway, protein, very important. Carbohydrates, they are our main energy source. It is the body's main energy source. It is not the devil, or they are not the devil. Carbs provide the body with glucose. Glucose is converted into energy and used to support our activity, right? It's what lets you get out of bed in the morning. It's what lets you walk up and down the stairs and chase your kids around and go to the grocery store and get through the gym and go swimming in the summer, all the, like any activity that we do, we need carbohydrates to do the function. Okay. So those of you that are trying to run all the time on the treadmill or the Stairmaster and eat no carbs, you're not really helping yourself. You're definitely not helping yourself from a performance standpoint. And then fats are what they are, is essential fatty acids, and that they in and of themselves help our body absorb vitamins. They protect our organs, support cell growth. They control our blood sugar and our cholesterol. So they're really important to keep our system functioning, right? It's hormone regulation, fats help with that. So very, very important piece. Also something that you don't necessarily want to cut completely out of the diet. Now, when we look at balance, we need different amounts of each of them. And I would not trust, if you guys have ever tracked your food on like a MyFitnessPal or some sort of a calorie counter or something like that, the equation that it gives you in terms of how much protein, carbs, and fat it wants you to have isn't spot on. Generally speaking, we want 35 to 40% of our calories to come from carbohydrates, 30 to 35% to come from fats, and 30% to come from protein. Okay. So an easy way to calculate that is we start with protein because it is based off of our current body mass. So anywhere between 0.7 and 1 is the number of grams that you want per pound of body weight. So if I'm 150 pounds and I multiply that by 0.7, that gives me 105. So that would be 105 grams of protein, right? 150 times 1 is 150, 150 grams of protein. So somewhere in between 105 and 150, I'm going to split the middle, 130 grams a day, right? That's the easy way to do it. If that's 30% of my day, I can then calculate out carbohydrates and fats based on that. Okay. That's the math way to do it. And then this down here, which I can share this with you guys as well, is going to tell you how many calories of each, or how many grams of each you need based on the caloric density. So fats are calorically more dense than carbohydrates and protein. They clock in at 9 calories per gram, whereas protein and carbohydrates clock in at 4 calories per gram. So if I did this math and I knew I was eating 130 grams of protein, and I know that protein has 4 calories per gram, that gives me 520 calories of protein that I can eat. If that's 30% of my day, I have 1,730 calories per day for what my body needs. The other thing that we have to do is base this on our energy output, which is something that we're going to dive into, not in this challenge. So just know that this equation isn't necessarily done here. There might be another step that we need to add. But the very rough example, right? If I have 1,730 total calories and I want 35% of those to come from carbs, then I know I have 605 calories for carbs and 605 for fats if I'm doing 35% of each, right? Calories divided by calories per gram gives you the grams. Don't worry about memorizing this. All it is a pretty in-depth and high level look at how we can calculate the balance of our macronutrients. The easier way is this hand method right here. Essentially 4 ounces of protein is going to have 25 to 30 grams of protein generally, which is considered a serving. I generally tell my people anything between 25 to 30 grams is generally going to be a serving of protein. How many servings you need is going to vary, right? But the way that I can look at that and say, okay, 25 to 30 grams is going to be about the size of the palm of my hand. And the reason the hand method works is because hands also generally change with body size, right? Like very small, it gives me the hand raise thing. I don't know how to make that go away. Generally very smaller people are going to have smaller hands, right? And larger people are going to have larger hands, at least based on your like bone structure, right? Your body's frame. So one palm is one serving of protein. A serving of carbohydrates is going to look like a cupped handful. Like if I'm taking a cup of oats or rice, right? That's what a serving looks like. A serving of fats looks like your thumb. So if I'm thinking about olive oil or peanut butter or nuts or salad dressing or regular butter, my thumb is what a serving of that looks like. And then produce, fruits and vegetables, they are carbs, but they are very low calorie carbs. Like it is really hard to overeat fruits and vegetables. And a serving of that looks like a fist. Okay. So generally we say people are going to eat somewhere between 1 to 2 of each for most people, depending on if you are male or female, depending on how tall you are, depending on how active you are. That's what's going to change that a little bit. But if you just start by saying, okay, I'm going to build my plate and I'm going to start with a palm of protein, a cupped handful of carbs, a fist of fruits or vegetables. And like, that's the base. Okay. Does that feel like enough food? No. Okay. I'm going to add a little bit more of everything. Right. And trying to keep kind of that picture in there of 1, 1, 1, right? The other thing that we can do is look at a plate. And if I have a dinner plate, I want about a quarter of that plate to be protein or maybe a little bit more. I want 1/3 to 1/2 of my plate to be fruits and vegetables. And then I want about a quarter of my plate to be carbohydrates. You'll notice that I didn't include fats in there when we're building the plates. The reason is that generally we're going to get enough fat just through the combination foods that we eat and through the methods of cooking foods, right? So if I cook my vegetables or my meat in any type of olive oil or butter, that fat is included in what I'm intaking, right? It is on the food that I'm eating. Also, there are a lot of combo foods. So eggs, for example, are both protein and fat because the egg white is the protein and the egg yolk is the fat. Yogurt or dairy, most dairy is a combination of protein and fat. Some meats, right? Like red meat has a higher fat quantity just in the meat. So most of the time we don't have to think about trying to add more fat into our diet. It's being more aware of how much fat am I actually getting. And the saddest one I will tell you right now is peanut butter. Like if you actually look at what a tablespoon or a serving of peanut butter looks like, it is way less than you probably normally eat when you eat peanut butter. And that's not to shame you guys out of eating anything. That's just to say, this is the method that I want you to start to use when you're looking at building a balanced plate. Either the hand, one of everything, and then if I need more, I'm going to go get more. Or the plate itself and looking at, I want a quarter of my plate to be protein, almost half of it to be fruits or vegetables, and then a quarter of it to be like complex carbohydrates, rice, grains, potatoes, bread, pasta, oats, most things that are brown. Okay. Those all fall into carbohydrates. And we can also talk a little bit more about what foods fall into protein, carbs, and fat. That would be a great question to throw out in the group chat if that's one that you have, because I'm not going to go over it right here. So that is building a balanced plate. Okay. Alcohol, this is a little bonus. 7 calories per gram, and we track alcohol as a carbohydrate. So when I'm thinking about the balance of protein, carbs, and fat in my day, if I know that I'm going to be consuming drinks that evening with friends, I need to know that my carbohydrate intake has just increased based on that decision. So it would be very smart of me to really try to get more protein earlier in the day, because I'm going to get out of balance if I am adding drinks to my balanced plate at night, right? So that's just something to think about. Obviously, we don't want to I'm hoping we're not making all of our calculations based off of alcohol, but there are ways to include it in your diet without getting totally off track. It's not just that you have to completely cut it out and not be social and not ever go out with friends. So that is that. What I would like to do now, stop share, tech dinosaur. What I would like to do now is go and talk to you guys about the prompt for today. So for at least 2 meals a day, we're going to work on building that balanced plate. You're going to start with 1 carbohydrate, 1 protein, and 1 produce serving. If that feels pretty ingrained to you, then you can take that further step and utilize the hand method or even the rough calculation of macros that I showed. If that feels appropriate to you, okay? And it is important, you guys, to understand combo foods here. So dairy, eggs, nuts, and nut butters are going to be sources of protein and carbohydrate, or protein and fat. So if you're counting peanut butter as your protein, not quite gonna fly. I wish I could, but I can't. If you guys are vegetarian, vegan, that's definitely something that I work with people on. So if you have questions on how to do that and how to get protein into your diet without just eating meat, or eating fish or eating protein powder, talk to me. It's definitely doable. And yeah, that is your work for the next day. So start working on looking at that balanced plate, 1 of each. All right, you guys, throw out any questions you have, and I will see you in the next one.